I sometimes, maybe you'll think I'm really loony, but I think I'm a medium. I don't think it's only instinct. I don't think painting is an instinct in the sense like breathing and walking and surviving. To be an artist in today's world, you have to be a little off-center. You're working at something hardly necessary in a sense, and yet it's very necessary. And that's that little hairline of what I'm talking about, whether it's sane or not sane. To be free from restrictions, to conformity. I'm an anti-conformist. And what I was yearning for that day, painting it, was no different than any day that I'm painting or talking or anything that I'm living through.
Shirley Kaufer's early life was filled with emotional and physical pain. Born in Brooklyn in 1920, her handsome Viennese father was an obsessive gambler, and her mother was a homemaker who worked part-time to help maintain the family of 4. Shirley was born with a displaced hip. Movement was painful until she was 5. A year was spent in a full-body cast. Drawing was her escape, and her talent did not go unnoticed. At the tender age of 7, she became a student at the art school at the Brooklyn Museum. She knew she had to be an artist. A far cry from the typical young Jewish girl dreams of the 1920s. Shirley had no plans to marry and settle down, but she met Bill Goldberg and fell in love. Perhaps the fact that he too was a successful artist and designer helped. They married in 1943. Very soon afterwards, she conceived her first daughter, Alice. Shirley struggled with the role of housewife and mother. She went back to work in advertising after only 18 months. She had a second child, Vivian, 5 years later. For the next 13 years, Shirley and Bill commuted separately from their home in Long Island to New York City. Although successful, she was growing increasingly disenchanted with commuting and working for others. She wanted more time to devote to her painting. They moved to Manhattan and successfully set up an office and studio in their Upper East Side apartment. Shirley began teaching as well. During this time, Shirley also developed an interest in pottery. In fact, all the dishes and plates in their apartment are handmade. In 1972, while on vacation, they fell in love with Vero Beach, Florida, and promptly bought a house there. Shirley spent the next few years mostly working in her new clay studio.
And somewhere, at one point, I had always been drawn to clay. I became a potter. But this is my crowd of ladies. Many of them have very open heads, because women have to have open minds. I didn't realize that advertising was more or less a pretty shut door to women.
Really?
In the late 30s, when I graduated, yes. There was prejudice. I thought it never occurred to me that I would have a problem. Pure perseverance kept me on track. A lot of women that I graduated with from school fell by the wayside. Either they fell because they married and gave up completely, or they just...
Interesting choice of words.
I always used a brilliant, strong, clashing perhaps, but not on the vulgar clashing. You know, like the trend today of many of the painters, not only here in California, but all over, is this vulgarity. And
Trash art.
yes, it really is. And my training was to appreciate an elegance, a feeling of, I am still wrapped up, maybe it's very old and traditional, in beauty. And I feel beauty has to be a part of a human's yearning.
Hold on.
And something struck me immediately about Los Angeles. I loved it. And I felt that San Francisco was too much like Vero Beach. It was tourist. And I vowed I would never, ever locate in a tourist atmosphere. I wanted to be in a big city. And the criticisms of Los Angeles sprawling is the exact thing that appealed to me. That when you want something, you go out great distances and you find it, and it's there.
I'm Bill Goldberg. I've been married to Shirley Kaufer for 46 years, and it's been quite an experience. I guess I'm low-key, so it sort of works. She's highly emotional, and we sort of balance one another. I was mainly into graphic design and advertising, as was Shirley, but because of a background of fine arts, I must admit I had very little background, and she exposed me to museum going, and it opened up many avenues for me.
When I came here, I was struck by the feelings, period of Impressionism and Expressionism that I went through. And that's not what I'm trying to say now. I'm not making a comment about the light here in California, but it's the feeling that the light gives to me, Roy. I'm trying to express the mysterious creativity that exists in California, the Hollywood area, and it's all in the hills. It's not out there. It's not so apparent as it is in New York, which was more surface and we were more integrated. But here, people kind of get lost, but it's there. And creativity is here for us to feel it.
Shirley Kaufer has always been a nonconformist, but she is most proud of her decision to be an artist. Few women would be so bold in the 1940s.
When I'm working, these things come to pass by themselves. And I'm not searching. I am not searching for freedom. They are free to become whatever the image in its final remains on that canvas. There's a moment when you know there's not another thing you can do to that surface. And this praise that I'm trying to relate to any person who's looking at the work is this marvelous feeling of not being confined in any way. It's as though I'm not even there, as though I'm not there,